Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the Cyber Gizmo, I want to talk a little bit about Fedora 43. This is the latest from Fedora, which was released October the 28th, just almost 5 days ago or so. Yes, it does take me some time, but I've been working with Fedora 43 since the beta. I've been doing testing, I've been checking out stuff, and so this video is kind of the culmination of all that effort. Every year, Linux changes. Sometimes it's quiet, and sometimes it gets kind of loud, and sometimes it's just downright controversial. With Fedora 43, this release follows what I think is going to be a recurring theme. This is the release that says goodbye to X11. There is still support for it. Some of the desktop environments are still providing support for X11. And so that's what we're going to discuss. And who is this for? This isn't going to be a tutorial. This is a story where Linux actually came from. Yeah, and more importantly, where the heck is it going? And does this still matter today? The development team realized that this one pony show wasn't going to meet the needs of every user. So they figured out something a lot smarter, and that was to build a family of editions. The flagship models are Fedora Workstation, Fedora KDE Plasma, the Fedora Server, Fedora Core OS, and Fedora IoT. So these are the main systems around which Fedora focuses their effort. But there are also spins. Spins take that core portion of Fedora and then place a new desktop on it, whether it be XFCE or Mate or Cinnamon or Budgie, whatever it might be, even a window manager such as Sway. So those are all offered there as well. So that's what the spins are for, is for people that prefer a different look and feel and want to organize their workspaces differently from the baselines. And then there are the labs. I think these are really the use cases behind Fedora. These are curated distributions that offer solutions to creators or scientists, even developers or educators. So anywhere from astronomy to creative design, robotics, over to security. Fedora has an environment that they think provides suggestions and help to get you started for people that actually do work with Linux. And this is what makes Fedora different. It doesn't tell you how to use Linux. It asks you, what do you want to do with it, and then gives you tools to get you started. So now that we know what Fedora is, I think we need to start where we all have to start, and that is to download it. And so I will be doing KDE Plasma today. That's what I use. And so, however, a little bit different. I mean, I'm going to be looking at the workstation version, even though I use the immutable version. Once you've decided that this particular spin might be for you, you can then choose to install to your hard drive. And at that point, it will launch the new web UI installer. So here you'll select your language, your region, your disk, and that's about it, other than defining the user name and password that you want to use to log in with. So the installer just starts off. It's clean, it's streamlined, and it's pretty modern. It used to be Fedora used to get a lot of criticism on being hard to install. So once you've done all that and it says click to reboot, you're ready to go. And once you reboot, your login screen is presented. You log in, and that's it. And now you see a fresh desktop is waiting for you to get started.
DJ, it looks like the boot time is about 6 seconds with Fedora 43. DJ, it looks like disk storage is about 5.4 gigabyte for root and 500 megabyte for boot, so about 6 gigabyte total in use. DJ Haytop is showing 117 tasks, 534 threads, and about 2.06 gigabytes of memory in use out of a total of 8 gigabytes available. DJ Glances is showing 2.32 gigabytes of memory in use, counting the application cache out of a total of 8 gigabytes available. There are 274 tasks and 788 threads running, which is loading the CPU about 1.1% of capacity.
The next thing we'll look at is Lynis. Lynis I run all the time. That's a kind of an old school security auditor. It's looking for hardening values of your system. Do you have a firewall up? Do you have certain things set?
Just a moment. DJ Lynis has finished and reports an overall score of 68. There are a number of recommendations, but nothing out of the ordinary for a new distribution freshly installed.
And so I'm going to run CYVS as a shell script. It just pulls in a whole bunch of other programs and then gives you an idea of what's going on. It uses SIFT and gripe. Those will actually look at, SIFT will look at all of the bill of materials that make up your system. And then gripe will take that compiled list of packages and applications and then look for any CVEs that are open.
DJ CYVS has finished and has found 3 critical and 170 high common vulnerabilities and exposures that exist on your system.
The other side of security is what does your system leak to the outside world? And to do that, we're going to use Cover Your Tracks for that piece. That's software provided by the IEFF. And then we can get a gauge for how many bits of information is being leaked by your browser. That'll also help you if you want to choose and pick a different browser that maybe is a little bit tighter. And finally, we'll look at Speedometer to try to get an idea of how fast your browser is.
DJ, the speedometer test, has completed with a score of 14.2.
I also did some tests on the hard drive.
DJ, the FUYO sequential read test, looks like it completed with about 2.16 gigabytes per second throughput. DJ, the file sequential write test has completed with a 1.06 gigabyte per second throughput. Both read and write speeds are significantly slower than expected.
All right, let's stop for a minute and look at the harmonic mean of megabytes per second. So we have Debian on top, followed by Ubuntu 25.10, followed by Fedora. So those are, there's some pretty big differences there. And, you would think Debian is a 6.12 kernel. 25.10 is a 6.17, the same as Fedora's. You would think that though at least Ubuntu and Fedora would be closer, and they're not. I remember, just briefly, before I move on here, you're probably going to see this, I'm going to guess, that BOGO op should flip, right? But it doesn't. And MX takes the lead, followed by Fedora for the ops per second. It should be just the opposite of megabytes per second. Generally, that's the case. But they don't flip. Then the geometric mean, this should give you your overall winner. And I wish Virtualization would fix this so that it orders properly. But Ubuntu 25.10 comes out first. I would say MX is second. Linux Mint is third. And then I would say we have Debian, and then Fedora, and then Rocky. And one more thing about Fedora. There's a well-kept secret. And if you take the time and scroll all the way down to the bottom, you will find a learn button for miscellaneous Fedora. So in here are the downloads that I think are kind of the treasure chest of jewels behind the scene of things that really make Fedora useful. For example, there is a minimal image build. So if you want the smallest footprint of Fedora that you can get, start there. And then there's the everything ISO. I'm not sure what I need. I'm not sure which one I like. You can install the Fedora ISO and you'll have everything ready for you to play with. So whether you use a virtual machine to try out a lot of those different things, it'll give you a chance to install whatever you want to test and play with in a virtual environment and then commit to the one that you want. And you can use that same ISO on a USB stick to install whatever it is you like. There's also the nightly builds. That is earliest release possible of Fedora. All of the working development that say that's going to go on for the next release, Fedora 44, these would be the nightly builds that start to pile up and allow people to use and test. Then you have Rawhide. Rawhide you can think of as the permanent beta of Fedora. But these builds are the ones that power everything else. These are the testing grounds, the proving grounds. This is where the future is forged, and this is where you'll find everything that you need in order to construct your own version of Fedora 2 if you want. So we've talked about Fedora as a release. We touched a little bit on the kernel and some of the changes there. We've talked about some of the changes to Fedora itself. And we did some testing. We did some benchmarks. We actually put it to the test, and we found out how it stacks up against its other distributions that are out there. At one time, this is just a broad overview of the performance. At one time, the kernel was the thing that decided the performance of the distribution. I can see that that is no longer the case because I have tested Ubuntu, which is running 6.17, against Fedora, which is running 6.17, and the performance is quite different. That means that there is some performance tuning that's going on in Ubuntu that is not being done by Fedora, which means that there's obviously headroom here that we can improve the performance of Fedora. What I measure is what it is out of the box, not what it could be, all right? So, yeah, I want to know how it stacks up one-to-one when I put it on a USB stick, install it, what do I get, and what's actually being required of my system. That's what I want to know. So with that, that's all I had for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again in the next video, and bye for now.